Back into the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Streaming on the KDUS AM 1060 app and the video version of the program over on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube live stream. Is it a make or break season for the Arizona Cardinals? Do they have to have a specific outcome, a specific result, and that result being a playoff berth, or else things will completely change? Well, one CBS Sports writer made that case in a story late in the day yesterday. Cody Benjamin wrote, "Make or break time. Giants, Dolphins among NFL regimes under most pressure to deliver in 2025. And then the subheader is, which clubs could be in danger of a reset if they don't improve? So, Producer Evan, I want you to just take that question and just put it to the side for a second. We need to remember it. We need to keep it close. The subheader to this story, which clubs could be in danger of a reset if they don't improve? Now, reset, what are we defining as a reset? We're defining a reset, a coaching change, a GM change, a quarterback change. You use the term reset talking about a football team. I'm thinking new GM, new coach. That's what reset means to me. That's what I think of when I hear the word reset in terms of a football team.
Does the reset not include the quarterback?
It could.
I think it's all three.
But it definitely includes the coach and the GM.
I think the quarterback's in there, too.
Okay.
Just because how often do you see a regime? Well, this one's a little different because we'll get into it here, but the coach and the GM weren't part of the extension.
Right. So this is where you're leading the witness a little bit, but we're going to go down this path because the question is, which clubs could be in danger of a reset if they don't improve? And the first team on this list, because alphabetically they start with an A, are the Arizona Cardinals. Here is what the blurb says about the Cardinals, and then we have to discuss. Quote, under Coach Jonathan Gannon and General Manager Monty Ossenfort, the Cardinals went from a scrappy 4-13 to an even scrappier 8-9 between 2023-2024. That's an upward trajectory. The 2025 season will mark year 7 of quarterback Kyler Murray's career, however, and the former number 1 overall pick has yet to blossom as a truly playoff-caliber signal caller amid multiple reworkings of his supporting cast. After a spendy offseason in which they basically remade their entire defensive front, it's time for the Cardinals to actually make noise late in the year. Otherwise, they might prefer fresh leadership if it is time to part ways with Murray, whose contract soon becomes feasibly expendable. The quarterback can be traded or marked a post-June 1 cut in 2026 to save millions, end quote. The first half of this blurb, I'm all on board with. Under this coach, under this GM, they went from 4-13 to 8-9. The arrow's trending upward. Kyler Murray, we're still on the fence about. They've reworked his supporting cast over and over and over again. They invested a first-round pick in Marvin Harrison Jr. Here you go, Kyler. You want a number 1 target? We're going to use the number 4 overall pick. We could pick anybody in the draft. It wasn't a quarterback. Everybody was available to us. We're going to get you a slam-dunk, blue-chip talent wide receiver. We are going to leave no doubt. We're going to take everything off the table. You are not going to be able to complain about your supporting cast. And I agree that it is time for the Cardinals to make noise late in the year. I agree with all of this. Where I stop is to say that if they miss the mark this year, that there is going to be new leadership of everybody involved in this, coach, GM, quarterback. Who do you have the most confidence in? I have the most confidence in the GM. I have the second most confidence in the coach. Third on that list would be the quarterback. And to Producer Evan's point, he led the witness a little bit. This coach, this GM, they didn't sign the contract extension. And if you want to say, well, Chris, they've been here. This is now going to be, their 3rd season. They've had chance after chance. No, they have not. The contract that was signed by the previous regime doesn't really have a clean, nice out in it until this offseason. There would be way too much dead money associated with Kyler Murray if they moved on from him last offseason or the offseason before that, or if they moved off from him this offseason. The money that would be associated with that move would be way too much for an organization that's trying to rebuild. And then, on top of it, when they got here, they're dealing with the Kyler Murray that's coming off of an injury, that's dealing with a torn ACL. They have to evaluate this guy. Could you really do it off of a half a season? Could you really do it with that being the sample size that you had in front of you? No, you could not. And so this season is not make or break for the coach. It is not make or break for the general manager. It is make or break for the quarterback. The quarterback has to be making noise late in the season. The quarterback needs to be the one playing in and winning a playoff game. Because if that doesn't happen, what's going to change next offseason? The coach is not going to change. The GM is not going to change. The quarterback is going to change. And this regime, this GM, and this head coach will finally, for the first time since they've been here, get to make a quarterback decision. Get to pick, quote unquote, their guy. That's what will happen if this team doesn't make noise late in the season. There's not going to be a reset.
It's interesting, you say make noise in the end of the season, and what does that mean? Is that going in, making the playoffs? Is that winning playoff game?
I'll tell you exactly what it means. This Cardinals team, if Kyler Murray wants to be the starting quarterback in 2026, this team has to be playing in a playoff game, and he has to play well in that playoff game. He cannot be the reason. I don't want to say he has to win a playoff game because Kurt Warner played well enough to win a Super Bowl here. Wasn't his fault, right? They lost. Not his fault.
It happens.
He walked off the field with the score working the way that he wanted it to. So I don't want to go that far, but Kyler Murray has to be in a playoff game. The Cardinals have to be playing the first playoff weekend, and Kyler Murray has to play well enough in that playoff game for us to say, not his fault. Not his fault they lost that game. Now, if you win, that's even better. But he has to not be the reason why they lose. That is what I mean by make noise. Anything short of that bar means we are having a quarterback conversation next offseason. Hands down, we will be having a quarterback conversation around this time next year. Perhaps they solve it in free agency. Perhaps we're discussing them moving up in the draft. But if we are not talking about a Kyler Murray that played in a playoff game and played well in a playoff game, and removes the bad taste out of all of our mouths for the way that he played in that wild card game against the Rams. That's the bar. That's where he has to hit. If he is short of that, then no, quarterback conversation next offseason.
It's crazy. Kyler's an interesting because the numbers aren't bad. He's 68% completion percentage, 3,800 yards, 21 touchdowns, 11 picks.
You are clearly new here because you are throwing numbers at people, and I can tell you before you finish that the YouTube chat, the callers of the program, the listeners of the program do not care about your numbers. They want one number.
You didn't know where I was going.
They want a playoff win, Producer Evan. That's all they care about. They don't care about his completion percentage. They don't care about his numbers during the regular season. They want to see a playoff win. They want to see this team in the playoffs. Anything short of that, you can take your numbers and take a stroll.
Okay. Well, then I'll sit here and tell you that it's time to move on today. Because you look at Kyler Murray, do you see a winner?
I do not see a franchise quarterback.
I don't see a winner. You look at the kid, and every time they come into a big game, they go into the bye last year in prime position to make a run in the playoffs, and he was horrible in the Seattle game. He came out immediately, threw 5 picks in the next 3 games, and was the reason they did not make the playoffs. Now, that defense was smoke and mirrors early in the year and kind of fell apart as well. But Kyler Murray was a huge reason that they did not close on that year.
Of course. Kyler Murray has to answer that question. He has to answer that call in November, in December. He has to answer that question against the NFC West in games that matter late in the season. He has to answer that question in the postseason. But you know what I can tell you for certain? There's not a lot of certainties in life. There are certainly not a lot of certainties in sports. But one certainty I can tell you, Kyler Murray's going to have that opportunity this year. Him answering all of those questions is firmly in his control. He has the best roster he is going to have around him. This coaching staff's going to have the best roster they've ever been able to assemble. He's going to be able to answer that question. It's going to be up to him whether or not he answers it. But this story made the case that there would be wholesale changes across the board. There is one change that will be made if this team misses the mark this year, and it will be at the guy under center. It will be the guy that after 7 years won't have a playoff win to his name, that won't have a marquee moment late in the season that we all can look back on and say, wow, remember where we were when that happened? This is the year. Year 7, this is the season. This will either be the end or he will give us all of the answers we need to continue. If you're betting on history, then this is going to be the end. Let it play out. But a complete reset across the board, that will not happen. There's one guy who is under pressure this season. It's the guy under center.